Good morning, students. Hope you are doing good. In the first chapter, you have learned about sources of food. Today, we'll study chapter 2 to learn about components of food. In this chapter, we'll learn about definition of nutrients, identify the types of nutrients, testing the presence of different types of nutrients in food, identifying the role of each component in our body, understanding the term balanced diet, and listing the diseases caused by deficiency of each component. So, what is food? Food is one of the basic requirements of living organisms. It is required for growth, development, and wear and tear of the body tissues. We know that each dish is usually made up of one or more ingredients which we get from plants or animals. These ingredients contain some components that are needed by our body. These components are called nutrients. So, what are nutrients? The components of food which are required by our body for growth, development, and wear and tear of our body are called nutrients. Let's see how many types of nutrients are present in our food. The types of nutrients present in our food are carbohydrates, fats or lipids, proteins, vitamins, minerals. In addition to this, food also contains water and dietary fibers which are also needed by our body. Now, let's learn about each nutrient in detail. Carbohydrates. These are main energy giving foods. Main carbohydrates are starches and sugars. Example, potato, rice, wheat, mango, maize, bajra, etc. Now, fats. These are also energy giving foods, but they provide us more energy as compared to carbohydrates. There are two sources of fats, plant sources and animal sources. The examples of plant sources are groundnut, soybean oil, coconut oil, sunflower oil, nuts, etc. And the animal sources are butter, ghee, eggs, milk, cream, fish, meat, etc. Foods containing fats and carbohydrates are also called energy giving foods. Protein. These are known as bodybuilding foods. They help in wear and tear of body tissues. Example, pulses, peas, meat, etc. Vitamins and minerals. These are called protective foods. They help us in protecting our body from diseases. They also help in keeping our body parts healthy. So students, now look at the pictures and find out what are the sources of vitamins and minerals. Yes, they are fruits and vegetables. Water. As you all know, water is the basic necessity of life. Not only this, it is also an important component of food. It helps in removal of waste products of our body. It is a medium for many biological reactions taking place in our body. It regulates the body temperature. What dietary fibers? They are mainly provided by plant products in our food. For example, whole grains, pulses, fresh fruits, etc. They do not provide any nutrient to our body but are an essential component of our food and add to its bulk. They help our body to get rid of undigested food. Activity time. Now we know all the components of food, but how do we know which type of nutrients are present in our food? We have certain tests to identify the presence of each nutrient. Are you ready? Test for starch. Test for protein. Make a paste of food item for testing. Put it in a test tube and add 2 drops of copper sulfate solution and 10 drops of caustic soda solution. Observe the change. A purple color indicates the presence of proteins. Test for fats. Crush a nut, rub it onto a white paper and observe the change. An oily patch on paper shows the presence of fat in the food item. Let's have a quick recap for all the tests.
Test food for starch. Before we start our experiment to test the presence of starch in food, let us first understand what is starch. Starch is a complex carbohydrate present in the food we eat. Starch is odorless, tasteless, and white in color. What are the major sources of starch? Major sources of starch are rice, corn, wheat, and potatoes. Let us start our experiment to test the presence of starch in food. Take a small quantity of rice in a petri dish. Make a fine paste of the rice using water. Put the paste in a test tube. Add a few drops of iodine solution with the help of a dropper. What do you observe? The sample turns blue-black, which confirms the presence of starch in rice. Note, whenever starch reacts with iodine solution, it turns blue-black. Test food for protein. Before we start our experiment to test food for protein, let us first understand what is protein. Proteins are large molecules consisting of amino acids which our body and the cells in our body require to function properly. Our body structure functions, regulations of the body cells, tissues, and organs cannot exist without proteins. The muscles, the skin, the bones, and many other parts of the human body contain significant amount of protein. In fact, protein accounts for 20% of the total body weight. What are the major sources of protein? The major sources of vegetable protein are soybean, cereals, beans, and groundnuts. Major sources of animal protein are egg, fish, meat, and milk. Let us start our experiment to test the presence of protein in our food. Take a small quantity of mashed beans in a petri dish. Put it in a test tube and add some water. Add a few drops of copper sulfate solution to it with the help of a dropper. Then add a few drops of sodium hydroxide solution. What do you observe? The sample turns purple, which confirms the presence of protein in the food sample. Note: whenever protein reacts with copper sulfate and sodium hydroxide solution, it turns purple. Test food for fat. Before we start our experiment to test food for fat, let us first understand what is fat. Fat is a nutrient essential for normal function of the body, and living is not possible without it. Not only does fat supply us energy, it also makes it possible for other nutrients to do their jobs. What are the major sources of fat? The major sources of fat obtained from plants are mustard oil, coconut oil, and dry fruits. Major sources of fat obtained from animals are butter, ghee, and cheese. Let us start our experiment to test the presence of fat in food. Take a small quantity of dry fruits, such as cashew nuts or almonds, in a petri dish. Rub it on a clean white paper. You will observe oily patches on the paper. Hold the paper against the light to see the oily and translucent patch clearly. The fat present in the food sample is what makes the paper oily and translucent. Test food for sugar. Before we start our experiment to test food for sugar, let us first understand what is sugar. Sugar is the generalized name for sweet carbohydrates which are soluble in water. They are composed of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. What are the major sources of sugar? Major sources of sugar are fruits, milk, honey, and jaggery. Let us start our experiment to test the presence of sugar in food. Take a small quantity of glucose in a test tube. Add a few drops of Benedict's solution. Heat the test tube in water bath. What do you observe? The sample turns orange, which confirms the presence of sugar in the food sample. Note: whenever sugar reacts with Benedict's solution, it turns orange.
But why do we need food?
We all need food to obtain energy, to obtain material for growth, and to obtain materials for repair of damaged body parts and to carry out life processes. So, my dear students, what is the importance of nutrients in our life? Let's have a look. Carbohydrates provides energy, fats give more energy compared to carbohydrates, proteins helps in building and repair of body, vitamins and minerals protect against diseases. Each nutrient is essential for proper growth of body and to maintain good health. Vitamins form a huge group. Some of the essential vitamins are vitamin A It helps in good vision, healthy skin, and growth. It's found in green and yellow vegetables and dairy products. Vitamin B. It helps in release of energy from food, healthy body and skin. It's found in bread, milk and eggs. Vitamin C. It helps to fight against many diseases and provides protection. It's found in citrus fruits like orange, lemon, amla and tomato. Vitamin D. It helps in calcium absorption, provides strong teeth and bones. It's in margarine, fish, egg, butter, and milk. Vitamin K. It helps in blood clotting, bone metabolism, and calcium level in body. It's found in green leafy vegetables, liver, fish, and meat. These are a few dietary sources of essential vitamins.
So that means I have to eat lots of food.
Oh no! Eating excess food can make you obese.
Then what should I eat to be healthy but not fat?
Take a balanced diet. It's a diet which contains all nutrients in right amount and also has good amount of roughage and water. A balanced diet is important because it prevents diseases, controls weight, and helps against sleep disorders. A balanced diet also enables to meet your daily nutritional needs and enjoy a better quality of life.
Teacher, what will happen if I eat less food?
If you eat less of any nutrient, you will suffer from its deficiency. And the diseases that occur due to lack of nutrients over long period of time are called deficiency diseases. Here are a few deficiency diseases. Deficiency of vitamin A leads to loss of vision. Deficiency of vitamin B1 leads to beriberi. Lack of vitamin C causes scurvy. Lack of vitamin D causes rickets. Deficiency of calcium causes bone and tooth decay, and deficiency of iodine causes goiter, and lack of iron leads to anemia. Thank you, children. Hope you understood the lesson. Please revise the chapter and answer the questions from the exercise and worksheet. Good luck.